guess what time it is? It's cookie season. I'm Ella here, your favorite Girl Scout, and we have your oldies but goodies. Lemonades, dimmits, peanut butter sandwiches, and more. This year we have a new cookie flavor called the Explore Mug. My goal is 200 boxes, so please make that happen. You're gonna buy cookies anyway, so why not buy them from me?
What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for February 6, 2026. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Feel Good Friday edition of the podcast. We are back up and running on Riverside. So, yesterday, if you were looking for clips, typically I will post clips of whatever we talk about, like maybe 2 to 4, depending on the topic. Because of the Riverside issues, I was unable to do that. So no clips from yesterday, but the Brotherly Birds breakdown is up. It is out. So go check that out wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Lots that we talked about. So we're back in business, baby. All right. So we're going to start with the Eagles, and lots of emotions yesterday. I think based on what I heard on the radio, saw on Twitter, and everything. And you guys all know I am an educator at heart. The whole basis of this podcast is educating on Philly sports history. So this might sound a little preachy, and I apologize if it does, but I think everybody needs to take a deep breath, take the emotion out of the Jeff Stoutland thing, and just listen to this, because I get it. And this is in no way taking anything away from what Jeff Stoutland meant to this organization. You have to be a pretty damn good coach to survive 3 coaching changes. He brought in by Chip Kelly. He was here for Doug Peterson and was still here for Nick Sirianni. So that's saying something about what he meant to this team. And if you listen to guys like Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, they all talk about Stoutland U and everything. And this, again, is to not disparage, all due respect to Jeff Stoutland. However, I think we all need to take a step back. Maybe the worst thing that happened to the development of this team, and it played a lot into what happened last year, was winning the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Because I think what that did was mask a lot of the deficiencies with this team. Because go back to 2023, the offense was broken. So was the defense, but the offense was not necessarily, especially there near the end, what we want it to be. The first 4 games of 2024 were not good. It took the team going in and completely saying we need to do something. So if you look at the offensive coordinators, you had Brian Johnson, who was familiar with the system. Kellen Moore came in, but he didn't bring a lot of his own guys. A lot of the same guys kind of kept in place. It was kind of a mix mosh of whatever. And then last year, you go out with Kevin Petula, and he was really the only new coach in a big position, and it was to keep continuity. So essentially, you have 3 years of the offense not necessarily clicking. They were saved in 2024 by Saquon being on a mission to prove all the doubters, to prove the Giants, prove everything wrong. And they had one hell of a defense to match with that with Vic Fangio. So, and again, I'm not taking anything away. To me, it's the greatest team in Eagles history. But this has been trending this way for a while. And Jeff Stoutland is a part of that. And again, the offensive line played great last year. They played horribly this year. Yeah, you can talk about the injuries, but look at the way they played. Jordan Mailata did not have a strong season at all. Cam Jurgens somehow made a Pro Bowl. I have no idea. He did not play well at all. And yet Lane, Landon were hurt. But one of the staples and calling cards, if you will, of Jeff Stoutland was his ability to take those quote unquote projects or make those backups capable fill-ins. That didn't happen last year. And you can say, well, it was some of the guys Howie brought in. Yeah, to a certain point. But you don't think Jeff Stoutland had a say in the guys they were drafting and the guys they were signing, especially knowing that he was there for that long? So I get it. It's going to hurt. But at the end of the day, we're talking about the offensive line coach. And yes, it's a huge part of the game. Huge part of the success of this team for the past 25 years has been the offensive line. But we're talking about, and I feel like I'm Allen Iverson here, but we're talking about the offensive line coach. Okay. And there's differing reports out there. Part of the reports where he felt his voice wasn't being heard. Maybe it was being heard. And as somebody who is in a leadership position, you hear everybody's voice, but you don't take everybody's decisions and put them into place. You can't run an organization that way. So maybe Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo felt it was better to do whatever it was they did. Why they thought that, that's a whole other conversation for another podcast. So I get it. And I have teachers that come to me all the time with ideas that, sure, they sound great, but in reality and implementation, you cannot put into place. Maybe that's what was happening with Stoutland. They hired Sean Mannion as the offensive coordinator. Instead of making the same mistakes they've made with the past three, Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore, and Kevin Patullo, they're allowing him to put his guys in place. So maybe he said, Stout, you're going to be the offensive line coach. You're not going to be the run game coordinator. Maybe that's what upset him. And listen, he has every right to be upset about that. But to me, if you're going to put a new offensive coordinator in place, let him put his guys in there. Bill Belichick used to say all the time, if you want me to cook, let me buy the ingredients. Let Sean Mannion, because I think the Super Bowl win really clouded our judgment and our vision of what was essentially has been a broken offense for 3 years now. If it wasn't for Saquon being on a mission and having all NFL year, we don't win that Super Bowl. And I mean, I think it's a testament to the talent on this team as well. Is Stoutland going to be hard to replace? Absolutely. But he's the offensive line coach. In the grand scheme of things, I think the outrage and the emotion, they're moving in a different direction. It's a whole, I'm not saying he couldn't have picked up Sean Mannion's thing, but maybe that was part of his thing. Let me bring in my own run game coordinator, which he brought in yesterday, Ryan Mahaffey, who he worked with in Green Bay. And we screamed about how the offense is broken. They're taking the steps to fix it. You might not like the guys. You might not agree with the direction, but they're making bold moves here to fix it. And we just spent January talking about turning the page. The Eagles are turning the page. And sometimes it's not easy, but you got to take a step back and think about it. We all want it change. Change is happening. You can't be upset about it. And again, all due respect to Jeff Stoutland. He will be hard to replace. But think about what's going on across the street from Lincoln Financial Field. The Phillies are not changing. The Phillies are doubling down and running it back with the same core, hoping for a different result that we've seen every year since 2022. The Eagles have always been ahead of that curve, and I think this is what this is. So, I liked Stout. I thought he did a phenomenal job the way the players talk about him. But sometimes you got to change, and I think that's what this is. And look, it might blow up spectacularly in our face, but that's okay. You take that risk. We talk about it on Tuesdays all the time. If it blows up, you take that, you learn from it, you get better the next time. And I think that's what the Eagles are doing. They're learning from their past mistakes. They're changing. They're like, okay, we brought in Kellen Moore and didn't really allow him to implement his full offense, have all his guys. Let's not make the same mistake again. So that's sort of my take on it. And I do think the hot seat for Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, the temperature has turned way up now on them. It's shit or get off the pot now for both of them. And kudos to Howie, Jeffrey, all of those guys for saying we can't continue to do the things the way we've done them. If not, you become the Phillies, you become the Sixers. And we all know how much we rip those two teams. So I think the spotlight is brighter on the Eagles. So that's where a lot of the outrage and the emotion is coming into it. But if you take emotion out of it and think about this logically, this is a change that almost, I hate to say it, had to happen. And I kind of feel like he was pissed off that they took away the run game coordinator from him. But if you're going to do change, you have to fully change. Past 3 years, they didn't. So that's my take on that. Let me know your thoughts. Am I just blindly believing it? Because I'm also not sitting here saying it's going to be a Super Bowl year next year. I think we're in a retool right now. And I think there's going to be some growing pains. But sometimes that pain is necessary to get to where you want to go. So let me know your thoughts on the Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. Lots to talk about in Philly sports. Moving to the hardwood. And I have no idea what I thought the trading Jarrett McCain was going to be a precursor to a larger move. Instead, it really appears that it's a way to save Josh Harris some money. Essentially, so he could probably put it back into the Commanders. Makes no sense whatsoever. Sure, they're under the luxury tax now, but that means nothing. That team is not better than what they were pre-trade deadline. I mean, I don't think with the way McCain has been playing, there's that much worse, but they definitely are not a better team than they were pre-trade deadline. So we'll see what that means moving forward. And of course, on the court yesterday, their 5-game winning streak was snapped, losing to the Lakers 119-115. What a wild game. This thing had a little bit of everything. They led by 14 at one point. They battled back almost from a 16-point deficit. Lots of swings in this game. Joe had 35, Tyrese 26. VJ played well. I mean, not that he hasn't been, but listen, dude, pressure is on you now. So the 5-game winning streak is snapped. 119-115. Lakers beat the Sixers. They're back in action tomorrow in Phoenix. They did convert Dominic Barlow's 2-way contract to a full contract, so we should see more of him. I'm anxious to see, with some consistent playing time now with Paul George being suspended, what that looks like for him. But Sixers lose to the Lakers. They're back in action tomorrow against the Suns in Phoenix. And the Olympic break is here for the Flyers. Thank God. This team needs a break. Lost 2-1 to the Senators last night in overtime down at the X. 16 shots on goal in an overtime game. 16. 4 shots a period. You're not going to beat anybody shooting the puck 4 times per period. Jamie Drysdale had the only goal. They're on an Olympic break. Much needed Olympic break. All right, yesterday's trivia question. I said, who were the top 3 guys with sacks on that 2004 Eagles team? And this is an amazing stat. 17 guys had sacks on that team. Javon Curse led the way with 7.5. Sam Rayburn was the one that tripped everybody up, had 6. Corey Simon had 5.5. So thank you to everybody who reached out about that. Had some fun with that. But Sam Rayburn was the guy that tripped everybody up. All right, I mentioned the tech issues. They all should be resolved now. Clips, all of that should be going up. Brotherly Birds Breakdown is posted and ready to go. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott, and continue to spread the word. And be sure to check out the Brotherly Birds Breakdown, available now. And we are proud members of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network. Go to clashingconferences.com to see how you can get involved. All right, so the Olympics opening ceremonies are today, and we're going to continue our Olympic spotlight of local athletes Olympic athletes with local ties, I should say. And today we're going to stay. I still haven't figured out whether it's called the track, the ice, the snow, whatever. But we are going to spotlight Summer Bricher, who's a women's luge participant. She is a Glen Rock native, so it kind of extended the range a little bit. Glen Rock is in York County, probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from most of us, so it's that borderline area. But Summer is competing in her 4th Winter Olympics. She's not had any medals yet, had some tough runs in previous Olympics. She does have 7 World Cup wins, which is the most in U.S. women's luge history. She did win the team relay silver medal in 2024 in the World Championships, but she's certainly looking for a medal. One of the top 5 favorites here to get a medal. She's coming in at 16-1. If you want to catch Summer on the track, the ice, the snow, whatever you want to call it, she will be competing February 9th and 10th at 11 and 12:35 respectively. So Summer, make the area proud and bring home that medal. Turn heads and bring the hype with a custom hype chain from Lotwin. Perfect for youth sports, fantasy football, or just flexing your pride. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off your order. That's Lotwin.com, promo code TCCPOD for 10% off. Get your custom hype chain and get hype with Lotwin. All right, February 6th. Let's go back first to 1995. Sixers lose to the Hawks 107-92 at the Spectrum. Dana Barros with 26 points, 9 assists. Willie Burton added 23. And my all-time favorite draft pick bust of that time, Clarence Weatherspoon, only managed 13 points on 5 for 14 shooting. God, I hate that guy. But on this night, the Sixers retired Mo Cheeks, number 10, played 11 of his 15 years in Philly for the Sixers, second-round pick in 1978, 4-time All-Star, 4-time All-Defensive First Team, made 1 appearance on the second-team list, did help the Sixers to that NBA championship in 1983, also came back and coached the Sixers for a few years at the end of the Allen Iverson era. But Sixers lose to the Hawks 107-92 on this day in 1995. But the Sixers hang Mo Cheeks, number 10, up into the rafters. 2 years later, going to the ice. Better days for the Flyers. The Legion of Doom was outstanding. But on this day, they were even more outstandinger, if that's the word, against the Canadiens. Flyers win it 9-5 down at the Core State Center. Check out this stat line. John LeClair, 4 goals, 2 assists. Eric Lindros and Mikkel Renberg each had a goal and 4 assists as the Flyers beat the Canadiens 9-5. Think about that. That's what? Quick math here. 16 points from the Legion of Doom line in one game. That's why they went to the Stanley Cup this year. But the Legion of Doom had itself a day. The Flyers beat the Canadiens 9-5. And then, of course, the big event on this day in Philly sports history occurred in 2005. That would be Super Bowl 39 down in Jacksonville. And a day that many of us, especially people my age, never thought we'd ever see the Eagles actually playing in the Super Bowl. I've said it a lot over the past few months, but I always felt as though the Eagles were a second-tier team. I felt we were treated almost a lot of times as second-tier fans due to the failures of our teams. But that changed as the Eagles played in the Super Bowl. They were tied at halftime. They were tied after the third quarter, so it was definitely an entertaining game. Unfortunately, 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions by Donovan, and a fumble by L.J. Smith really made the difference in that game. Eagles lose it 24-21, and you got to think some of those turnovers, they go the other way. Maybe the Eagles win this game. Donovan did throw for 357 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he just seemed off from the start. I think one of the first plays he gets hit and then forgets to buckle his chin strap. And that's when I knew. I was like, we're going to be in for a long day here. Brian Westbrook did have 104 total yards and a touchdown. Terrell Owens, 9 catches for 122 yards coming back off of that broken leg. The time management with Andy Reid there in the fourth quarter that the Eagles were kind of just moving slowly. Not really sure to this day what they were thinking. They still, like I said, had a shot though. You had the rumors after the fact of Spygate that Bill Belichick was spying on the Eagles practice. Players have said it seemed like they knew what we were doing. You had Freddie Mitchell giving them some bulletin board material, calling out the defensive backs by numbers. You had the leak of the Super Bowl parade route where, of course, Bill Belichick took that and used it to motivate his team. But Eagles lose Super Bowl 39, 24-21. But more importantly, they never got back until, 13 years later. But it was kind of a big moment. And until the 2017 team won, really was the high point of our Eagle fandom, because a lot of us were too young to remember 1980. But luckily, the Eagles did get back and win it 2 other times. But that does lead to today's trivia question. There were 3 touchdowns scored by the Eagles in that game. I kind of already gave you one, but who all scored touchdowns for the Eagles in Super Bowl 39? Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line. The Discord channel is in the description. But who scored touchdowns for the Eagles in Super Bowl 39?
It's time for Fridays with AI, where we ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history. Every Friday, only on This Day in Philly Sports History.
That's right. It is Friday. Time for Fridays with AI. Brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. They got you covered for your Philly sports apparel needs. And it is Super Bowl week. So AI came to me and said, there's lots of talk on WIP this week about all the 5 Eagles Super Bowl teams. Let's have a tournament and see who is really the best. But my first thing was, well, the NFL was different in all the eras that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. How are we going to account for all of that? AI came up with the rules. We're going to play on a modern field, modern medical, modern conditioning, all of that. But we're going to play some hybrid rules. We're going to give everybody an equal chance. What that does is allows the 1980 team to keep their physical play within reason, allows the 2024 team to use the finesse, the 2022 team to use the finesse. So here we go. The seeds, according to AI, 2024 is the 1 seed, 2017 the 2, 2022 the 3, 1980 the 4, and 2004 the 5. So that meant 1980 took on 2004 in a play-in tournament. It was the 1980 team coming out on top, 23-20. The 2004 offensive line struggled with the front 4 of the 1980 team. Wilbert Montgomery ran for 121 yards and a touchdown. McNabb was leaving a drive to take the lead, but threw an interception late in that game to seal it for the 1980 team. That brings semifinal number 1, the 1980 team versus the 2017 team. 2017 wins it 27-17. 1980 goes up early 7-3, but Nick Foles had some magic left in that old silk hat he found. Threw for 2 touchdown passes, one to Zach Ertz, who had 82 yards, and it was a BG strip sack late. Of course, why wouldn't it be? That sealed it for the 2017 team. Dougie P made all the necessary adjustments that team needed. And then in the other semifinal, 22 versus 24, a lot of the same guys on this team. It was the 2024 team winning it 30-26. The 22 team's version of Jalen Hurts used his leg to give them an early lead, but then the 2024 team, as they did most of that season, adjusted on defense in the second half and really shut down the 22 team. Jalen to AJ sets up a Saquon touchdown run, but it wasn't enough as the 24 team beats the 22 team 30-26. 2022, Jalen Hurts had 3 total touchdowns, but the difference was Saquon, 128 yards and 2 touchdowns, setting up the championship, the 2 Super Bowl winning teams. 24 wins it, 31-24. Foles led the 2017 team to an early lead, but then again, Vic Fangio adjusts the defense, had Nick Foles under pressure much of the second half. He threw for 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions, was sacked 5 times. A.J. Brown with 103 yards and a touchdown. Saquon 87 and a touchdown, as the 2024 team is crowned AI's Ultimate Eagles Super Bowl team. Now, some of my takeaways from this. First of all, I disagree with AI seeding. I think the 2004 team was disrespected. They were too low. I think the 2022 team was ranked too high. I think they were a decent team. Yes, they took Patrick Mahomes to the brink in that Super Bowl, but I just don't know if they were as good as they were. I do think the championship was correct. I do think the 24 team would win it, but like I said, I think that the 2014 was vastly underrated. And I do think the 17 team likely would have had some magic with Nick Foles as quarterback. But let me know your thoughts. 267-495-8531. How would you rank the Eagles Super Bowl teams? Let's have some fun this weekend on Super Bowl weekend. Not a good game for Eagles fans, but let me know your thoughts. But that is Fridays with AI, brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. And then finally, our Forged in Philly Black History Month Spotlight. Today we're going to take a look at Marvin Harrison, football player, Roman graduate, went to high school in Roman, where all the reps, very competitive team. You have to earn your keep to go to Roman. That Catholic League toughness he took with him to Syracuse and then the NFL. He is a college football and pro football Hall of Famer. He was the Big East Special Teams Player of the Year as a senior, putting the team first mentality. He did it as a return specialist, but doing whatever it needed to be done to help the team out. He was reliable as far as health throughout most of his career due to that Philly toughness. But Marvin Harrison was forged in Philly to believe that greatness doesn't need to be loud. It just takes hard work. Marvin Harrison certainly worked hard. Playing with Peyton Manning certainly helped. I know for the longest time we always said, man, Team Marvin and Donovan back together again. But Marvin Harrison, quietly one of the best, forged in Philly, used that Philly toughness, the Catholic League, Roman toughness, where hard work, you had to earn your reps. Took that to Syracuse and the NFL, and it led to Hall of Fame careers in both. Marvin Harrison is today's Forged in Philly Black History Month Spotlight. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on the best Eagles teams, and let's just talk Eagles Super Bowl teams this weekend. 267-495-8531. On this day in 2005, the Eagles lost to the Patriots 24-21 in Super Bowl 39. 1997, the Legion of Doom had themselves a day in a 9-5 win over the Canadiens. And Mo Cheeks, number 10, was retired on this day in 1995. We'll have more on the Sixers. Thank God for the Flyers that they are on the Olympic break. Can't lose if you don't play. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on the Jeff Stoutland thing. I think we're as fans, we're certainly overreacting a lot to this. So I would love to know your thoughts. Lots to talk about this weekend as Super Bowl Sunday is here. The Eagles will not be playing. That means the offseason unofficially gets started probably around 10 o'clock on Sunday night. But let's have some fun on the Back to the Future voice and text line this weekend. We'll be back on Monday to rewind the weekend as we always do. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for February 6, 2026. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a feel-good Friday. Stay warm out there tomorrow. And if you could, the girls will be out there selling Girl Scout cookies tomorrow in the negative 10-degree wind chill. Help them out. Go follow the link and buy the cookies online for Ella. You're not going out, so get them. They can get delivered right to your house. All right, everybody. My name's Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.